Are you ready for a shot of pure adrenaline? Surfboards, skydives, bank robberies, and one of the coolest cat and mouse games in movie history. Released in 1991 and directed by Kathryn Bigelow, this cult classic still crashes over audiences like a perfect wave. Welcome back to Review Lens. Point Break isn't just an action movie, it's a philosophical meditation disguised as a surf-and-heist thriller that somehow manages to be both completely ridiculous and utterly sincere. Directed by Kathryn Bigelow, who would later win an Oscar for The Hurt Locker, this film represents something unique in action cinema. Johnny Utah, played by Keanu Reeves, is an FBI agent who goes undercover to infiltrate a gang of surfers he suspects are also bank robbers. These aren't just any bank robbers, though. They're the ex-presidents wearing rubber masks of Reagan, Nixon, Carter, and LBJ while they rob banks to fund their endless summer. Leading this crew is Bodhi, Patrick Swayze's adrenaline junkie who speaks about the spiritual purity of surfing while planning federal crime. What makes Point Break fascinating nearly 3 decades later is how it manages to be simultaneously ahead of its time and perfectly of its moment. While Schwarzenegger and Stallone were mowing down faceless enemies with machine guns, Bigelow was crafting action sequences that felt visceral and real. The chemistry between Reeves and Swayze drives the entire film. Their relationship is the movie's beating heart. Utah doesn't just want to catch Bodhi, he wants to be him. Here's something most people don't know. Patrick Swayze was actually an accomplished skydiver with over 50 jumps before filming began. He performed the actual skydiving scenes himself, making him one of the few actors to literally jump out of a plane for a role. Keanu Reeves, on the other hand, wasn't allowed to skydive due to insurance restrictions, though he did learn to surf for the film, training with former world champion surfer Dennis Jarvis. The film's philosophy, delivered mainly through Bodhi's New Age warrior poet speeches, shouldn't work, but somehow does. If you want the ultimate, you've got to be willing to pay the ultimate price, he tells Utah. And while it sounds like something from a motivational poster, Swayze's conviction sells it. Bodhi isn't just a criminal, he's a true believer in his own code. He robs banks not for the money, they only take what they need for their lifestyle, but as a way to strike back against a system that would cage the human spirit. The supporting cast deserves recognition too. Gary Busey, before his motorcycle accident that would change his personality, plays Pappas, Utah's partner, with a manic energy that perfectly counterbalances Reeves's wooden earnestness. Lori Petty, as Tyler, the love interest, brings a tomboy toughness that was refreshing for action films of the era. What's remarkable about Point Break is how it influenced action cinema for the next decade. The Fast and Furious franchise is essentially Point Break with cars instead of surfboards. The 2015 Point Break remake tried to update the formula with extreme sports beyond surfing, but it missed what made the original special, the sincerity. The film's ending remains one of the boldest in action movies. After a globe-spanning chase that takes them to Australia's Bells Beach during the 50-year storm Bodhi has been waiting for, Utah finally catches up with him, but instead of arresting him, Utah lets Bodhi paddle out to certain death in the massive waves. He even throws his FBI badge into the ocean, walking away from everything. It's an ending that shouldn't satisfy. The bad guy gets away, in a sense. But it feels right because the film has spent 2 hours showing us that Bodhi and Utah are two sides of the same coin. Utah doesn't let Bodhi go despite being a cop. He lets him go because he finally understands what Bodhi has been trying to tell him all along. The film's dialogue has become endlessly quotable, and the most telling line comes when Bodhi explains his philosophy. It's not tragic to die doing what you love. This is a film that takes seriously the idea that surfing, skydiving, and living on the edge might be spiritual experiences worth sacrificing everything for. Point Break isn't just an action movie, it's a cop movie delivered at 120 miles per hour while free falling toward Earth. It shouldn't work, but like that perfect wave Bodhi spends his life chasing, when everything comes together just right, it's perfection. So, we're done for this one. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell for more movie comparisons, retro reviews, and all things film. Thanks for hanging out with me today. And as always, see ya on the next one. Save us a balcony seat and extra butter on the popcorn, please.